Hey folks, this is Kalani. The Dragonflight patch 10.0 is now live on the public test realms. That means we can hop in and test some of the larger changes coming with the pre-patch and the Dragonflight expansion itself. So we're going to go over what you can test on the public test realms right now, what is not included but should be sometime soon, and then some things that will never get tested on the PTR. We'll also go over how you can get onto the PTR so you can test everything we talk about to your heart's content. Before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. So the big news right now is that the public test realm was just updated to patch 10.0, the pre-patch for the Dragonflight expansion. That's very exciting for a few reasons, partly because it means we're well on our way for that pre-patch actually being pushed to live servers. It has to start on the PTR first, right? It's going to get that testing in to make sure it doesn't completely break when the pre-patch finally arrives for real. The testing has started, so it's only a matter of time until it's all ship shape and ready for retail servers. The other main reason why this is exciting is because typically the vast majority of massive sweeping system changes come through with the pre-patch. So the huge talent system overhaul, the profession overhaul, the new base UI stuff, the new Evoker class, general class changes, and any major changes to the world outside of the new continent, all of that usually comes with the pre-patch, and seeing as it's the pre-patch that we're testing, all of that should be available for testing sometime within the next month or so. Now this is a process, obviously, so not everything comes in all at once, so what is available to test with this first PTR build? The largest update is probably the general class changes as well as the talent system overhaul. This is going to be really weird to start off with because you have very few baseline abilities for your class now. The general idea is to start with the bare minimum and then you pick up extra utility and more abilities in the talent trees. So if you're missing an ability or two, double check your talent tree because it might just have moved in there. There's not much else to say about testing talent trees, just hop in, play around with your favorite class's tree, see how things fit together, which pathways you might want to go down, and which abilities you can pick up and empower. I will say though, there are some interesting little tidbits in the talent system now that you might overlook. For example, at the bottom left you can save presets. So if you get a build flowing that you really like, save it in a preset and you can reset your talents and play around as much as you want and then instantly reload your saved preset talents. It's going to make swapping talent sets between different types of content very efficient and easy, and it's a fantastic change. You can also export and import those very same presets, so if you have some friends who are tinkering around with their own builds, you can pass the export strings back and forth to quickly copy their talent loadouts. And then the last little new thing is that you can actually search your talent trees now. If you search any ability or term in the search box, you'll see where those abilities are, as well as any talents that interact with your search result. Another great quality of life addition. Moving on, the PTR also has the new base user interface that we'll be using in Dragonflight. This is a pretty major update. We can finally chuck those pesky bar add-ons in the trash can. There's a lot to go through with this one, so we'll probably cover it in a separate video now that it's almost entirely updated, but basically everything has a new lick of paint. New character frames, party frames, minimap, bags, menus, bus, debus, the whole shebang. The cool thing about this new UI is that you can also edit it all, move it, resize it, get it exactly how you want it, and then probably move it some more. All of these options are editable, some have more options than others, and there's even a grid you can turn on to make sure it's all symmetrical. I think it's great that this is finally part of the base game, and with it being on the PTR, you can play around with it yourself and see how you like it before the expansion goes live. Currently, there is no way to turn it off or opt out of the new look, so if you prefer the old style of the UI, you'll have to hope someone makes an add-on that turns back time. Another big update that you can take a peek at on the PTR is the profession overhaul. If you open your professions, you can see the new UI being used for Dragonflight and kind of get a feel for where everything has moved to and how to navigate through it. But if you go up to the top and change your filter settings, check Show Unlearned, and then select the Dragon Isles, we can take this one step further. These are all of the Dragon Isle recipes for your profession that we have to look at so far anyway. Some recipes might tell you where they come from, but at this point in time, most of them will will not. You can see what materials are being used, the new UI options we have in some cases, like adding in extra optional reagents, as well as get an idea of what kinds of items you can create with your professions in Dragonflight. Sadly, you won't get a chance to test any of this stuff out unless you're in the beta, but at least you get a sneak peek of what's to come. Now, I will say the profession overhaul is quite complex and involved, so you probably won't be able to get a complete picture at this point in time, especially when you consider that some of the professions might not be entirely complete, and from what I can tell, the PTR also doesn't include anything to do with the profession specializations, which is a whole other bag of worms. But you can get a feel for how each profession might progress, what kinds of materials we'll be dealing with, and you can see the crazy scope that they have for the profession system in Dragonflight. It's going to stand on its own as a separate endgame progression system with a lot of depth and a whole bunch of recipes for you to collect and create, or at least that's the plan. Now, even though there is quite a bit you can test on the public test run right now, not everything is present that we might expect. From what we understand, the new class spec combo, the Dragonflight Evokers, should be made available for play with the 10.0 Prepatch. That gives us time to go through their introduction experience and get them ready to start Dragonflight with everyone else. So we would expect to see the Evoker class added to the PTR testing cycle sometime before it launches, but sadly it was not included in this first build. It is the first build, after all. It can't contain everything, I guess, but the Evoker class is very interesting to play and tinker about with. It has new types of abilities with the Empower spells, and it has very visually impressive ways to destroy your enemies or heal your allies. It's lots of fun all around, so I'm excited for when everyone can hop onto the PTR and test them out. But I think the aspect that I am most excited about for mass Evoker testing has got to be the Soar racial. Yes, they're really fun, yes, they feel overpowered, and yes, they can breathe fire all over everything, but here's the thing. The Soar racial lets you pseudo Dragon Ride. It's not the full experience because you don't have your Vigor, you can't choose how to use your abilities very well, the cooldown is significantly longer so you can't do it as often, and you don't have any of the upgrades available in the Dragon Riding talent tree, but with all that being said, this is still a form of dragon riding that everyone will be able to access and play with when Evokers become enabled on the PTR. I know I've talked about dragon riding a lot, and there's a reason for that. It's really, really cool. It genuinely changes how the game plays, especially when you consider just how early we learn it and how much of the leveling experience we get to use it for. It makes moving from quest hub to quest hub much more satisfying, and even from quest mob to quest mob. It's just a great gameplay experience. But the largest problem with dragon riding is that no matter how much someone talks it up, it doesn't do it justice. You have to play with it, experience dragon riding for yourself, which is sad really, because the vast majority of the player base simply won't be able to. Not everyone gets into beta after all, but the PTR, that's something everyone can get into. So whenever Evokers become available, I implore you, hop onto the PTR for even just a few minutes, make an Evoker, play around with the Soar ability, and then imagine how that will play with more abilities, no lengthy cooldown, and an entire progression pathway to work your way through. It's gonna be great. The other major piece of content that I imagine will be available eventually on the PTR, but isn't quite yet, is the Prepatch event, or really anything to do with it. We have no idea what the Prepatch event is going to be like, but there should be some quests, maybe some invasion type objectives or bonus events. We'll probably get something related to the time skip to explain how that's going to work and how important it is for the story, and the event will just set up Dragonflight as best it can. None of that is really in just yet, but I would expect those things to be added in the next couple of PTR builds. We do have some interesting data mining to look at potentially regarding the event, so this is no way confirmed to be part of the event, but there are new proto-dragon named bosses that look like Primalist Drakes. The Primalists are one of the main enemy factions in Dragonflight, and these bosses have some loot tables as well. All of this gear is item level 280, so it's pretty decent for what could be an open world farmable event, perfect for all of your alts that probably just ding 60. There are 4 bosses data mined so far, so this could maybe rotate on a daily basis. Maybe you can kill all 4 every week, we don't know, but it looks like at the very least we'll have some new options for gearing up when the Prepatch event does arrive. And then of course this is the Prepatch, not the expansion launch itself being tested, so anything that is tied specifically to the expansion will not be tested on the PTR, even in future builds. So that includes being able to go to the Dragon Isles. They'll be for beta players only, I'm afraid, because dragon riding is also learned in the Dragon Isles. We also won't be able to test that whatsoever in its true form. There won't be any leveling testing, which will also limit your talents. As we level through Dragonflight, we'll earn a few extra talents for both trees, so by the time we're level 70, we will have access to more talents, so keep that in mind while you're tinkering with talent setups. Those are the key things we won't get to test, but if there's anything specifically tied to the expansion itself, especially the Dragon Isle zones, that won't be up for PTR testing either, so don't get your hopes up too high. With that being said, there is a lot you can do on the PTR right now, especially if you've been interested to see the class changes and talent trees in-game. Now, just to make sure everyone has a chance to hop onto the PTR, I'll go through how you can get set up with the public test realm real quick. On your Battle.net app, you should have a drop-down menu for World of Warcraft. Mine probably looks a bit busier when compared to yours, but if you click on the drop-down, you should be able to find public test realm here somewhere. There might be a few, like some for Classic WoW for example, so make sure you get the public test realm one, select that and install it. That's pretty much it. You should be able to boot up the PTR, copy a character over, and muck about with everything currently on offer. Now, if you have characters on the PTR already from previous patches and iterations, I would actually recommend you delete them and copy over a fresh character. You never know what bugs might be lurking in old PTR characters, so it's always a good idea to start with a clean slate with a new PTR patch in my opinion. And that's pretty much it. Everything you can do on the current patch 10.0 PTR, why it's an important milestone for the Dragonflight expansion as a whole, and how you can get yourself logged in to test out all those crazy talent changes. Are you going to spend any time on the PTR for the 10.0 Prepatch? And if so, what are you going to spend your time on? Checking out the talent, maybe the new UI options, spending some time figuring out professions, or maybe you're just waiting for the Evoker class so you can soar through the air and blast your enemies with Dragonfire. Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to everyone who's subscribed on Twitch. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I'll see you next time.